They made him wait outside in the rain for 20 minutes. His wheelchair was disrupting the ambiance, they said. His Vietnam veteran cap was inappropriate for fine dining. The Purple Heart recipient sat there, water dripping from his paralyzed legs, remembering the jungle where he lost them, saving 12 men. Then a convoy of black SUVs pulled up, and suddenly, the restaurant staff realized they'd made the worst mistake of their lives. The rain started as a drizzle that Tuesday evening. By the time Tommy Mitchell wheeled himself to the entrance of Le Bernardin's steakhouse, it was coming down steady. Not a storm, but enough to soak through his thin jacket within minutes. He'd saved for 3 months to afford this dinner. Tonight was November 10th. Tomorrow would be Veterans Day. But more importantly, tomorrow would mark exactly 50 years since he'd lost his legs in Vietnam. He wanted to celebrate making it this far. Alone, maybe, but somewhere special. The restaurant's glass doors reflected the warm golden glow from inside, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the soft murmur of conversation mixing with classical music. Tommy had called ahead that afternoon, asked about wheelchair accessibility. "Of course, sir," they'd said. "We accommodate everyone." But when the hostess saw him approach, her expression shifted. She was young, maybe 22, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that disappeared the moment she saw the wheelchair. Old model, Medicare-issued, with duct tape holding the left armrest together. His jacket was from Goodwill, still decent but clearly worn. His Vietnam veteran cap sat slightly crooked on his head, a Purple Heart pin gleaming on its side. She opened the door just wide enough to lean out, not wide enough for him to enter. "Good evening," Tommy said, his voice still carrying that Carolina drawl even after 40 years in Philadelphia. "Reservation for Mitchell, 7:30. The hostess, her name tag read Madison, glanced back into the restaurant, then at him. "I'm sorry, but I don't see any reservation under that name." Tommy fumbled in his jacket pocket, pulled out his flip phone, where he'd written the confirmation number. His hands shook slightly. "Parkinson's. Early stage. Another gift from Agent Orange. I called this afternoon. Spoke to someone named Jennifer." She said. "Sir," Madison interrupted, her voice taking on that fake sympathy tone people use when they want you to go away. "I'm afraid we can't accommodate you this evening. But I have a reservation. Table for one. I can show you your wheelchair," she said, gesturing at it like it was something contagious, "would disrupt the ambiance for our other guests. The aisles are very narrow." Tommy looked past her. He could see the dining room clearly. The aisles were wide enough for 2 servers to pass carrying trays. Several tables sat empty. "I've been in smaller spaces," he said quietly. "I won't be any trouble." Madison's eyes flicked to his Vietnam veteran cap. "Also, we have a strict dress code. We don't allow casual headwear." "I can take the cap off." "And the jacket, sir. It's not appropriate for fine dining." Tommy looked down at his jacket. It was clean, pressed. He'd ironed it himself that morning, struggling to stand on his prosthetic attachment points long enough to do it properly. "This is the nicest thing I own." "I'm sorry," Madison said, not looking sorry at all. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at Denny's down the street. They're very accommodating." That's when the manager appeared. David Chen, according to his gold name tag, slicked back hair, expensive suit, the kind of smooth smile that never reached his eyes. "Is there a problem here?" he asked Madison, though his eyes were fixed on Tommy. "This gentleman was just leaving," Madison said quickly. "No," Tommy said firmly. "I have a reservation. 7:30. Mitchell." David made a show of checking his tablet. "I don't see anything here, and as my hostess explained, we have certain standards." "Standards," Tommy repeated, the word tasting bitter. "The comfort of all our guests is paramount. Your wheelchair would block emergency exits. It's a liability issue, you understand." Tommy had been in a wheelchair for 50 years. He knew every ADA law, every requirement. The restaurant was clearly in compliance for wheelchair access. This wasn't about liability. "Just give me a table in the corner," Tommy said. "I won't bother anyone." David's smile tightened. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're creating a disturbance." Tommy hadn't raised his voice once. The only disturbance was the rain now drumming harder against the windows. But he knew that tone. He'd heard it before, in different decades, with different excuses. "Can I at least wait inside until the rain stops? Just in the entrance?" David exchanged a look with Madison. "The entrance is for customers only. You're welcome to wait outside. There's an overhang." The overhang extended maybe 2 feet from the building. Tommy would be soaked within minutes. But Tommy had been through worse. Much worse. He nodded, his dignity intact even if nothing else was, and wheeled himself back outside. The rain hit him immediately. Cold for November, the kind that seems to find every gap in your clothing. He positioned himself as close to the building as possible, but water still ran off the overhang onto his legs. Not that he could feel it. He hadn't felt anything below his waist since 1973. As he sat there, he wasn't thinking about the rain or the cold. He was thinking about Hill 937, Hamburger Hill, they'd called it later. May 20th, 1969. His squad had been pinned down by heavy fire. 12 men trapped in a crossfire, nowhere to go. Tommy had been the only one in position to reach the machine gun nest. He'd made it too, cleared the nest, saved all 12 men. But the second explosion, the one nobody saw coming, that took his legs, threw him 30 feet into a tree. He'd spent the next 6 hours applying his own tourniquets, keeping himself alive until medevac arrived, all while calling in coordinates to protect the retreat. 12 men made it home because of him. Stevens became a teacher. Rodriguez opened an auto shop. Williams had 5 kids, 15 grandchildren now. They sent Christmas cards every year. Tommy pulled out his phone. Not to call anyone, just to check the time. But his hand moved almost automatically to a different number. One he'd never called before, but had saved for 5 years. His son had given it to him. "Only for emergencies, Dad. Real emergencies." This wasn't an emergency. This was just humiliation. Just another Tuesday. His thumb hovered over the call button. Then he put the phone away. But here's what Tommy didn't know. The restaurant had security cameras, high definition, connected to the cloud, and David Chen, in his arrogance, had given his nephew access to monitor them from home. The nephew who was supposed to be watching for Dine and Dashers. The nephew named Kevin Chen. Lieutenant Kevin Chen, Navy SEAL Team 6. Kevin was home on leave, laptop open, when he saw an old man in a wheelchair turned away from his uncle's restaurant. He zoomed in, saw the Purple Heart pin, saw the way the man's hand shook, saw him wheeled out into the rain. Kevin made a call. "Rodriguez here. Fish, you seeing what I'm seeing?" Kevin had already shared the feed. "Yeah, your uncle's place." "Not anymore, it's not." Within 5 minutes, the encrypted group chat lit up. SEAL Team 6 members, both active and retired, from within a 200-mile radius. The message was simple. "Brother down. Le Bernardin Steakhouse, Philadelphia. Rolling in 40 minutes. They didn't know Tommy Mitchell personally. Didn't matter. They saw the Purple Heart. They saw the wheelchair. They saw the disrespect. That was enough. Tommy had been sitting in the rain for 20 minutes when he heard them. Engines. Not just 1 or 2. Many. The deep rumble of American V8s. 3 black Suburbans pulled up first, parking directly in front of the restaurant. Then more vehicles. A Camaro. 2 motorcycles. A lifted truck. Within minutes, 11 vehicles had converged on the small parking lot. The doors opened in near synchronization. Men stepped out. Some in their 30s, some in their 60s, all moving with that particular economy of motion that comes from years of training. Some wore suits, some wore jeans and t-shirts, but all of them carried themselves the same way. The first man to approach Tommy was Commander James "Brick" Morrison. 6'4", built like he could bench press a small car, with a beard that had gone gray in service to his country. He crouched next to Tommy's wheelchair, putting himself at eye level. "Evening, sir. I'm Commander Morrison, Team 6. Heard you might be having some trouble getting a table." Tommy blinked rainwater from his eyes. How did you—" "Modern technology, sir. Mind if we join you for dinner?" "Son, I can't even get in the door." Brick stood, turned to the others. 30 men total. Gentlemen, it seems this establishment has some confusion about their reservation system. Let's help them sort it out. They moved as a unit toward the entrance. Brick held the door. Both doors, wide open. After you, sir. Tommy hesitated. I don't want trouble. No trouble, sir. Just dinner. You were here first. We're your guests. Madison saw them coming through the glass. Her face went white. She grabbed David, who was reviewing receipts at the host station. Mr. Chen, we have a situation. David looked up, saw the group of men wheeling Tommy Mitchell back toward his restaurant. His mouth opened, then closed, like a fish out of water. Brick reached the door first, held it open. The entire group filed in, Tommy in the middle of them, protected, honored. They filled the entrance completely. David stepped forward, his customer service smile plastered on, but his eyes showing panic. Gentlemen, I'm afraid we're completely booked. No, you're not, Brick said calmly. I can see 15 empty tables from here. Those are reserved. Perfect. We'll take them. You don't understand. Those reservations... Kevin Chen stepped out from behind Brick. David's face went from pale to ghostly. Kevin, what are you? Uncle David, Kevin said, his voice carrying disappointment that cut deeper than anger. This is Master Chief Thomas Mitchell. Purple Heart, Bronze Star with Valor, Silver Star. Lost his legs saving 12 Marines at Hamburger Hill. David's mouth worked soundlessly. Kevin continued. You just made a Vietnam veteran sit in the rain because his wheelchair might disrupt the ambiance. The man who kept 12 families whole was told he wasn't good enough for your restaurant. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Brick interrupted. He told you he had a reservation. Told you he called ahead. You looked at his chair, his clothes, and you made a judgment. One of the other SEALs, Rodriguez, had his phone out. David Chen, right? Owner of Le Bernardin Steakhouse? He turned the phone around, showing a Facebook live stream. 37,000 viewers and climbing. They're all watching how you treat veterans. Madison was crying now, mascara running. I was just following policy. What policy? Kevin demanded. Show me the written policy that says Purple Heart recipients sit in the rain. Tommy raised his hand slightly. It's all right. I don't need... With respect, Master Chief, Brick said gently, it's not all right, and you do need. You need what every warrior who's bled for this country needs, respect. He turned back to David. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to seat Master Chief Mitchell at your best table. You're going to serve him your finest meal, and it's going to be on the house. Of course, David stammered, right away. We'll all be joining him, Brick added, all 30 of us. But we don't have... You'll figure it out. You're creative. After all, you figured out how to turn away a war hero in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Within 10 minutes, the restaurant had been reorganized, tables pushed together. The main dining room transformed into one long banquet arrangement. Tommy was seated at the head, his wheelchair fitting perfectly in the space that had somehow materialized. Other diners watched in fascination as the SEALs took their seats. Some had started recording. The story was already spreading across social media. A veteran at the head of the table, 30 warriors surrounding him, the footage would go viral within hours. Madison approached Tommy hesitantly, her hands shaking as she held the menu. Sir, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Tommy looked at her. Young, probably never been taught any better. What's your name, sweetheart? Madison. Madison, let me tell you something. That uniform you see these men wearing inside themselves, they wear it so people like you can sleep safe. So you can have choices. So you can make mistakes and learn from them. He paused. The question is, will you learn? Tears ran down her face. Yes, sir. I will. Then we're good. The meal that followed was unlike anything the restaurant had ever seen. Stories flowed with the wine. Laughter filled the space that had been so concerned with ambiance. Other diners began sending bottles to the table, standing to applaud when they learned who Tommy was. David Chen personally served Tommy's steak, his hands trembling as he set it down. Master Chief, I need to apologize. You need to do better. Tommy said simply. Not for me. For the next veteran who comes through that door. The next person in a wheelchair. The next person whose clothes don't meet your standards but whose heart is pure gold. Yes, sir. Kevin pulled his uncle aside later. You know what bothers me most? I've told you stories about the men I serve with, about what they sacrifice. And you still looked at a wheelchair and saw a problem instead of a person. Kevin, I'm ashamed, Kevin said quietly. Ashamed that my uncle, my blood, could do this. The words hit David harder than any punch could have. And, meanwhile, Rick was on his phone with someone.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Le Bernardin Steakhouse, Philadelphia. Full investigation. ADA violations. Discrimination. The whole package. Yes, ma'am. I'll send the video evidence now. Tommy overheard. You don't need to. Master Chief, with all due respect, yes we do. Because tomorrow there'll be another veteran. Maybe one who doesn't have 30 brothers to call. Maybe one who'll sit in that rain and believe he really isn't good enough. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere transformed completely. The other diners, initially uncomfortable with the disruption, began to understand what they were witnessing. Several approached to shake Tommy's hand, to thank him for his service. An elderly woman at a corner table sent over a note with her server. My husband was at Hamburger Hill. Different unit. He didn't make it back. Thank you for trying to save them all. Tommy read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. Around 9 o'clock, a news van pulled up outside. Then another. By 9:30, there were 4, all wanting the story of the restaurant that turned away a war hero, only to be descended upon by SEAL Team 6. David tried to do damage control, offering interviews, but Kevin stopped him. You've said enough, Uncle. Let your actions speak now. Instead, it was Tommy they interviewed, still at the table, surrounded by his unexpected brotherhood. Master Chief Mitchell, the reporter asked, how do you feel about what happened tonight? Tommy thought for a moment. I've been in this chair 50 years, been turned away from a lot of places, most of them with better excuses than this one had. But tonight, he gestured to the SEALs around him. Tonight reminds me that the brotherhood doesn't end when the uniform comes off. These men didn't know me, but they knew enough. What would you say to the restaurant management? Mord mau vieux. Same thing I'd say to anyone. Look past the chair, look past the clothes, look at the person. Every single one of us has a story. Some of those stories were written in blood so you could have the freedom to judge us. Maybe remember that next time. The interview aired at 11. By midnight, Le Bernardin Steakhouse had received over 3,000 one-star reviews. Their phone wouldn't stop ringing, some calls supportive, most not. But more importantly, by morning, David Chen had called his lawyer. He would settle the ADA violation case quickly, quietly. Madison had turned in her resignation, though Tommy would later call and ask David to give her another chance. People can learn, he'd say. I've seen enemy soldiers become allies. A young hostess can become better. The SEALs stayed until closing time. When the check came, for thousands of dollars of food and drink, David tore it up. No charge. Ever. For any veteran. That's our new policy. Put it in writing, Rick said. Post it on your door. David did. That very night. A brass plaque that would be installed the next morning. This establishment proudly serves all veterans. Your sacrifice is recognized here. As they prepared to leave, each SEAL stopped by Tommy's chair. A handshake, a business card, a phone number. You need anything? Anything at all, you call, each one said in their own way. Kevin was last. He knelt by Tommy's chair. Master Chief, what you did at Hamburger Hill, my uncle should have known. The whole city should know. That was a lifetime ago, son. No, sir. That was yesterday. Every day is yesterday when it comes to remembering. My uncle forgot that. I forgot that. We all get comfortable and forget. But not anymore. They wheeled Tommy out together. No longer in rain but under clear November stars. His van was where he'd parked it, in the handicapped space Madison had said didn't exist. Can we give you a ride home, Master Chief? Rick asked. I've got my van. Fitted it myself. Hand controls. Tommy patted the door proudly. But thank you. As Tommy drove away, He looked in his rearview mirror. 30 men standing in the parking lot, watching him go. He raised his hand out the window. They saluted as one. The next morning, Veterans Day, Tommy's phone rang at 6 a.m. He never got calls.
Master Chief Mitchell, this is Admiral James Robertson, Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command.
Tommy sat up straighter in bed, a reflex that 5 decades couldn't break. Yes, sir. I heard about last night. I wanted to personally apologize that you experienced that and personally thank you for your service at Hamburger Hill. I've pulled your file. You should have received the Medal of Honor for your actions. Sir, I didn't do it for medals. I know that, Master Chief, which is exactly why you deserve one. There's going to be a review, 50 years late, but we're going to make this right. Sir, that's not necessary. Master Chief, when a man saves 12 Marines and loses his legs in the process, when a man continues to serve his community from a wheelchair for 50 years without complaint, when that man gets turned away from a restaurant because of the chair he earned defending others, yes, it's necessary. Tommy didn't know what to say. One more thing, the Admiral continued. We're flying you out to Coronado next month. The current SEAL classes need to hear your story. From you, will you come? I'm not sure what I could teach them, sir. The war's changed. The war's changed, Master Chief. Warriors haven't. They need to know that the brotherhood they're joining extends backward through time and forward beyond their service. They need to know about men like you. After the Admiral hung up, Tommy sat in his small apartment, looking at his Purple Heart on the dresser. For the first time in 50 years, he didn't feel invisible. 3 weeks later, Leightonarden Steakhouse closed permanently. David Chen couldn't overcome the negative publicity. But he didn't disappear. He opened a new place 6 months later. Mitchell's Table, a restaurant specifically designed for accessibility, where veterans ate free every Tuesday, and where a portrait of Master Chief Thomas Mitchell hung by the entrance. Madison worked there too, as the head hostess. She'd spent the months between learning everything she could about veteran affairs, volunteering at the VA, understanding what she'd almost cost the world by turning Tommy away. The first customer at Mitchell's Table was Tommy himself, wheeling in to find 30 SEALs already waiting for him. Thought you might need dinner companions, Brick said with a smile. This time, Tommy was ready for the brotherhood. He'd learned something that night in the rain, that being forgotten isn't the same as being alone, that somewhere, always, the teams are watching out for their own. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice comes in the form of 30 warriors, refusing to let one more hero sit in the rain. 5 years later, when Thomas Mitchell passed peacefully in his sleep at age 78, his funeral looked like a military invasion. SEALs from every generation, Marines whose fathers had been at Hamburger Hill, civilians whose lives had been touched by his quiet service. They buried him with full honors. The Medal of Honor he'd finally received gleamed on his chest. But more importantly, he was surrounded by evidence of what mattered more than any medal, the brotherhood that had refused to let him be forgotten. The restaurant where it all happened now bears a different sign, a different purpose. But in the window, visible to anyone passing by, is a small plaque. On this spot, November 10th, 2019, America remembered one of its heroes. Master Chief Thomas Mitchell was denied service here. SEAL Team 6 corrected that mistake. May we never forget again. And they haven't. Every November 10th, veterans eat free at every restaurant in Philadelphia. They call it Tommy's Day. Because sometimes it takes just one man in a wheelchair, sitting in the rain, to remind us all what respect looks like. And sometimes it takes 30 warriors to teach it. That's the thing about brotherhood. It doesn't check your disability status, your bank account, or your clothes. It only asks one question. Did you serve? If the answer is yes, then you're never alone, even when it's raining, even when doors close, even when the world forgets. The brotherhood remembers. Always.